Woo. Thank you. So my name is Carl Anderson. I am VP Engineering at Ledger, and I run software. Before we start, just a quick question. How many of you have actually has a Ledger? Wow, I love the love. Thank you. And how many of you are actually building or supporting Ledger in their application they're building? A few. All right, minority. I'm hoping I'll convince all of you to start building with our devices then. And the reason I'm on stage today is really to talk about a brand new set of tools and libraries to make it easier to build and use our Ledger devices in your applications, essentially. We provide those tools since a long time. We started, I think the Ledger Nano S was released in 2016, and very early, a year after that, we already released to the community a set of tools which we call Ledger.js that allowed you to connect and actually use those Ledger devices with your applications. And actually, fun fact, this actually was before we even actually built our own software wallet, Ledger Live, which came out a year after. But so that was 8 years ago, and what we've done since is we really improved the kit. There was a certain number of aspects where Ledger.js was falling short, as you can see on the screen. I think the biggest complaints that we heard from you and from the community was that it was a lack of modularity. It's just a big JS package. And I think what was really hard as well is it was really hard to handle sessions, right? Because in the real world, your hardware device would lock. It could be in a different state. And then we create all those like edge cases and hard scenarios to deal with as a software developer. And so we really wanted to tackle those things because as the ecosystem grew, so did the use cases, right? In 2016, 2017, it was mostly about hodling, and we had the right devices for this. But with smart contracts and DeFi taken up, we're seeing more and more use cases. And so we updated our hardware to do so with brand new devices. You can see Ledger Stacks and Ledger Flex on the screen with our nice and beautiful touch-enabled screens. But so did the software as well. It's just with more use cases, more complex scenario to build, and it was just so much harder to do with Ledger.js because you had to do all those yourself and really become an expert as to how Ledger devices worked. So we needed to make it easier for you. And that's why I'm on stage today. And the big news is that we have a replacement for Ledger.js, and it's a brand new library called the Ledger Device Management Kit. So it's open source, it's already available, and you'll be able to go and get it. And it's not just a library, it also comes with a sample application. So you have the QR code right there and the URL at the bottom if you want to try it out. This web application, you can actually plug in your device and you can actually just play around with what the device management kit allows you to do. You can send commands, try with different devices, and get to tour it and discover what the kit does before actually diving in and starting to code with it. And by the way, same. It's all open source. It's all on a repository. You can see all the code. So it's a great example and great documentation as to what you can do with the kit. And so we talked about how Ledger.js fell short on several things. Those we made sure that were solved with the device management kit. Number one, and you'll see it later in this presentation, it's much easier to communicate and manage your devices. It's consistent and robust, and we'll see with examples right after. But the big news as well is that it's not just a JavaScript library anymore. We also have native implementations for iOS and Android. And it's also very modular. So we'll see in the architecture of the kit right after as well. You no longer have to load and get the entire package with you. You can actually use only the portions that you want to use, right? If you're only an EVM wallet, you only load the code that you need for the EVM ecosystem. You don't need to bring Bitcoin and Solana and all the other stuff. Yeah, and forthcoming debugging tools, and then clear signing, which we'll talk a little bit about as well in this talk. So this is how the kit is actually composed. I think it all starts with a communication with the device. That's the green box at the very bottom. So you can see that we support USB and BLE as in terms of communication tools with the device. HTTP is more for debugging for you guys. We're planning to build what we call a device mock server, which would allow you in your software application to then be able to test your code and simulate interactions with a device without actually having to have a device, right? So that could be super interesting to you if you want to plug that into your CI and do non-regression testing in your interactions with all Ledger devices. On top of this, you then have the device management kit, which is what you're interacting with a core API that allows you to connect to the device, list applications, get the version of the application, all that jazz. And then on top of this, we have all the little modules that I was talking about. The Signer kit, the Signer app kits, which is, as you know, on a Ledger device, you can install multiple applications. We have over 200 of them. And really the idea is for each application, you'll have a Signer kit that allows you to connect directly to this application and get the most out of it. So today we have Ethereum, Bitcoin, and Solana. And then for those of you that might not be aware, but you can do more than just blockchain stuff with Ledger devices, and we're starting to have new applications built on Ledger devices. A key one is the security one, which allows you to do passkey, and so you can actually connect to an exchange or a Web2 service using a key derived from your crypto keys as a safe device. And as you can see on the left, we are starting to migrate Ledger Live onto this new library, so we're dogfooding it. So you'd be using the exact same toolkit that we are using internally as well. So you'd have the same power at your disposal for you to build your own application. Cool. So now let's dive into the key features that we talked about. And I think this one is the biggest one. As I was saying earlier with Ledger.js, you had to do it all. Like managing the state of how the device was super complex. And I think this is probably where we're seeing the most complaints about our users is it's hard to go through flows, there's a lot of friction. And actually you see that in a lot of software wallets. You often see, make sure you have the Ethereum app open before starting the flow, right? That's because the state was so hard to manage. So now what we did is we built an entire session and state management. And so as a software developer, you can actually show to the user on your UI where it's at and handle the case if the device is locked, if it's busy, if it's connected, disconnected. You can display this information to the user, which will create a better UX, and better UX is better security. Then we actually built, so when you're communicating with a device, you need to send application protocol data units, APDUs, which is quite cumbersome. It's buffers of data that you're sending. So we wrap those into higher level primitives called commands, where you can actually go open an app, close an app, get an app in a version, those kind of stuff, which then allows you, it just makes it much easier for you to code, and it's very simple code. I got a code sample right after this. And cherry on the cake, we created what we call device actions, which is actually allows you to build flows so you can chain commands into one another. So here in the example, you can see the developer here is doing a get address. So he's asking from the Ethereum app to get the address to the user, and that's all he needs to do. And to do that, behind the device action, if the wrong application is open, it will close it. It will then open the Ethereum application and then get the address. And if the device is locked, that's not a problem. You'll be able, the user will unlock it. But you don't have to manage all those edge cases, right? You just go get address, and all that complexity is hidden away from you and taken care of. So those are device actions. Signer kits, we already talked about it. We got one kit per chain application on the device. Then the other big new feature that comes along with the device management kit is the context module. The context module allows you to clear sign for your users. What that means is, without context, when the device parses the transaction that you're sending, it just doesn't know how to display it. So that's why you get those big hexadecimal blurbs, of data, which as a user, you're like, I'm not sure what it is. It could be a legitimate transaction, but but I might be signing something that I shouldn't be signing. And scammers know this, and this is literally what they're using today to drain wallets. And this is what happened to Safe and the Bybit thing, by the way. They replaced the transaction, the genuine one, by a malicious one, and got it to sign. It was a blind sign. It was just a blurb of data. So sadly, someone signed it, and that's how they lost 1.4 billion. So clear signing is really, and when I was talking about more advanced use cases, and we need to provide a new technology to cater for those use cases, the context module is the functionality that allows you as a developer to pass metadata onto the device so that the device can show, instead of a blurb of hexadecimal data, meaningful information that as a user I can read, and then I can know what I'm signing before signing it. So that's a key one. And you heard a lot during this conference about 7702, which is coming. So saying we're going to make sure that on day one, it will be clear signed by Ledger devices, both types, both the message that you need to sign as well as type 4 transactions. So all the new features in the space, we're now going to put it in the device management kit, so it's available for Ledger users, but also your users as developers. Cool. So those are essentially the big reasons why I think you should migrate, and why we at Ledger, we're migrating from Ledger.js to the device management kit. I think the extra one is also future-proof, because all the new features that we'll be shipping to market as Ledger will do it through the device management kit, so you'll benefit from all those features such as 7702 clear signing support, for instance. All this information that I've just talked about, everything is available on the developer portal. You got the QR code at the very bottom here. It's developers.ledger.com. Got all the information to do so. Please note that the developers who are building this are actually in the room with us right there. So if you have any questions, and if you want to know more about how to do this, please join us. We'll be super happy to give you a demo, to answer your questions, and to get you started into developing with our devices. And finally, if you want to if you want to play around with it and make your own mind with our technology, again, you got the sample application, which is available online, where you can go and toy with application processing data units, commands, device actions. You can play with the signers straight from the interface, so you can actually see for yourself what the device management kit does, and you can see how it's done, because the other source code is also available. Yeah. And then in terms of timeline and where we're at, so on the left, all the stuff that we've done, we've talked about in this presentation, just to let you know what we're working on. So obviously, clear signing UX improvements. We want to clear sign other things in the space. This will all be coming through the device management kit, so you have the same superpowers. We're going to add app management, so you'll be able to install applications, update applications, just as users are able to in Ledger Live. It won't be bound to Ledger Live anymore. We're going to add React Native support. That's going to come in the next few weeks. And then more debug tools to make your life easier working with Ledger devices. And that is it for me. I'm out of time, so I'm going to get off stage. But if you want to talk to us about building using Ledger devices, we'd be super happy to help you out. Thank you all.